a sunny day, surrounded by the gods of cloud and infrastructure, sits Sherman Crancer, a former Microsoft executive who dedicated his life to helping partners achieve greatness. Working 90 hours a week, wired directly into the mothership, learning, watching, coaching, believing in something greater than possible, he created the Microsoft Partner Super System. This system uses a systematic approach to help partners transform into the partner of tomorrow. His partners grew at an average rate of 42% year over year, and in FY19 produced over $900 million in revenue. The Crancer Group manages a select number of Microsoft partners each year. Contact the Crancer Group and see if you qualify for consideration to be managed and transformed into the partner of tomorrow.
Many partners we work with are very frustrated with working within the Microsoft ecosystem. They're frustrated with how do they sign up for the right programs or get the right incentives. We specialize in helping those Microsoft partners get into the right programs, ensure they're in the right incentives, and put them on a path to grow at least 40% year over year. Next, we actually install a marketing machine program that helps our partners put together a very strategic go-to-market strategy that will put in place a way that they can drive 10 net new opportunities every single month. We look forward to talking with you, so please give us a call.
And now we're live. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. This is going to be fantastic. We are in our new year. This is the voice of the Microsoft partner that is led by the Crancer Group. We are excited today. We've got a great program. I think, we've learned a lot from the last year, and we've got a great speaker today that we're going to be going into and learning a lot about how they built their practice. So kind of how the mechanics of this works is that we're going to be kind of doing an agenda here. And actually, why don't we go ahead and push up the agenda, if you don't mind, if we can get up here, and I'll just kind of talk about this. We typically, in these sessions, what we're looking to do is we're looking to learn. We're looking to learn from the best and the brightest partners, right, that we have, that are out there. And today we've got an incredible speaker, and I'll introduce her in just a moment. But the mechanics of it is we have a Did You Know? And today I'm going to be talking about how do you figure out a compensation plan, or when you're hiring, what is the next new demographic? So that should be pretty awesome. Then we're going to have discovery, business development, and sales and marketing. So let me go ahead and introduce. Let me go ahead and bring in our speaker here to introduce her. Which is great. And would you be so kind as to kind of just introduce yourself and your company so that everyone can kind of know, kind of level set where you're coming from and who you are?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Anne Bisagno, CEO and co-founder of Xantrion. Xantrion is a 20-year-old cybersecurity and IT support firm headquartered in the San Francisco Bay Area. And recently, we've started putting people down in places like Boston and San Diego, given some of the industries that we're supporting these days. We specialize in supporting growing life science, financial services, and legal firms. And probably like a lot of you, recently, we've really been focused on helping these kinds of firms improve security and the work from home solutions that many implemented in haste in 2020.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming today. This is going to be great. And you and I spoke last night, and we kind of ran over the questions, and I was thoroughly impressed with some of these answers, just because it really kind of helps us think about things. And what we're going to be doing, and it's so nice to kind of open up a little bit of our business and kind of the way that they think about building the business. And I think we can all leave from this learning very well. Now, a couple other things real quickly before I get into Did You Know? If you're in the Microsoft Teams environment, please, utilize that to ask questions, because we have moderators that are actually moderating the Teams environment right now. But we're also on LinkedIn Live too, and YouTube. We're trying to get this out. We're trying to figure, how do we allow anybody anywhere the ability to access this, so that you can use LinkedIn to go ahead and ask questions And what we've done in the past year, which has been really awesome, is we've had a lot of really good feedback. People are asking questions, and we're able to ask our speakers, hey, what do you think about this? Or can you unpack this a little bit? So interaction is important, is awesome. And then lastly, we're going to be raffling off some Surface headphones at the conclusion of this event. So let's go ahead and get into the Did You Know section. All right. So on the Did You Know section, so one of the things that I've learned in this past year is when our partners will keep coming to us and they're asking, well, what is the persona, right? What is the persona of who I'm hiring? And in our industry, there's some issues, there's some problems with our industry. We need to identify those, right? And our majority of partners have built their business, and they're amazing tacticians and technicians, right? But the thing is, if you look at the demographic of their business, they're typically 90% engineering, right? 90% engineering, and they have 10% sales, which is typically the leader of the organization in one way or another, right? And then they have somebody in marketing, right, in there. But that's where the majority of our partners go. So if we understand that, we understand that there's a need to get net new clients, right? Net new clients, but it's always very difficult for our community to figure out, well, how do I bring in a seller? What type of seller do I bring in? What is the cost and compensation of that seller? And how would I design a compensation plan that actually gets that seller to sell something quickly? Okay. I would also say there's an assumption that software sales takes a year or 2 years to really get into and really build the business, right? There's also a lot of risks, because in this day and age, we end up trying to find sellers or hire sellers. We bring them in at a high end, a high salary, right? And that's a big business risk, especially if you're bringing on 10 or 11 or 12. So let me unpack this just a little bit. And I'm going to give you some advice, some free advice today, kind of how we look at it in the way that it's designed to help MSPs if they're thinking about building a sales organization. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to figure this out. Okay. So our guidance to our partners who are building out sales organizations is the demographic. Okay. What we want to do is change the way that our sellers are selling. And the first thing that we want to think about is we want to get away from selling 2, 3, or 4 deals a year. Okay. Because there really isn't a whole, there's money to that, but there's a lot of risk in that, right? There's a lot of risk in that. And there's always a hope and pray. We actually want to start making it more of a transactional, type of selling program where we can start putting in parameters where our sellers that we're hiring have an expectation that they need to produce every month or every quarter. Okay. And what we need to do also with that is try to find and define something that they can go out and sell that isn't, I'm going to sell everything. Okay. Because that's another problem that we have here too. Let's go ahead and establish that. The other problem that we have here is most MSPs have 300 things to sell. Okay, they're selling everything. You're the MSP, the managed service provider, right? And you got to be careful with that. Okay, but if you're bringing in a new seller, what's probably the biggest risk by doing that? Well, you're saying, hey, here's what we have. Go sell. How do you become an expert? How does that person get to market quick, right? Well, if you allow them to sell everything, that's a problem. So let's think about this. Demographic first. Okay, we're gonna have a first thing. We want to be looking for people that are 2 to 3 years out of college. Okay, that have that go into a good college, verifiable college, right? They've shown us that they can do tasks and complete them. That's really what a degree shows us, that you've given tasks and you can complete them, right? But we also want them to have a couple jobs too, 1 or 2 jobs, right? In sales, okay, so that they can demonstrate, okay, they're able to go in and take a look at what, and actually produce and do well with that. And if you understand that that's the demographic, now what we can start identifying is like, okay, what is the next step? Do we bring that person in and say, okay, go ahead and sell all 200 things? No, we don't do that. What we do is we create a line item type of quota and type of mission. And so what you do is in the first year of sales, you let them know like, hey, yeah, I know we sell all these things, but what I'm going to do, you're going to be selling 4 things. There's 4 things that we're going to have you sell. Okay. And we know this because we want them to just focus. We want them to be able to go to market quickly and look at 4 things that are going to make our business profitable. Now, I'll go ahead and just share those with you. The 4 things that we would have them focus on. One is licensing. Okay, so 15% of their overall commission would be in licensing. So licensing, and the reason why we only put 15%, okay, is because we don't make any money on licensing. We all know that. We all know that licensing, there's not any money into it, right? So, and we can end up getting 6% after it's all done. But what we need to do is make sure that they're focusing on the blocking and tackling. That's going to get us to the next 3 items in our actual line item for quota. The second one is cloud managed services. So this is different than managed services. And our advice and our guidance to our partners that we work with is get away from full managed services like we've thought about in the past, because we're moving away from sending people out to reset printer drivers, right? We're not doing that anymore. The offices are now closed, pandemic. We need to get into something that has a high margin, and that's where our money is. Ultimately, whatever we sell, we want to get to that cloud managed services, right? So with that, then you're putting a percentage of their quota needs to be about 35% of their quota. So first one was licensing, and that's going to be 15% of quota. Second one is cloud managed services. That's 35% of their quota. The third one is professional services, because we know that when they drive licensing, that drives professional services, right? So we need them to also focus on, okay, that's a metric, right? And then the fourth thing inside of their compensation, or what we want them to sell, is not necessarily a product, but we want them to have a steady quarterly performance, okay? So we can track them and say, hey, look, 15% of your total compensation, your extra, not just your salary, your extra compensation is tied to you making sure you're doing something every quarter. And we're mitigating and we're lowering the business risk by, removing the fact of this one rep is with us for 9 months and at the very end of the year swings the bat and hits it. That doesn't help for our business. We can't forecast against that. And what you want to do is create a process or a compensation plan that you can forecast on a quarterly basis, right? And by doing it this way, we also can give them metrics that are easily to attain and get to, but we also put them in a position where they think, okay, I can get incentivized as I go through. Now, let me talk about the base. What would be the base? Because you're probably going to ask, what is the base that we're going to put out there? So I would say that between $1 and $2 million. No, I'm just kidding. It's not $1 and $2 million. The base is really, in my estimation, 50 to 60,000. That's the base. I would say 50 grand is the base that you're looking for. You remember, we're not looking for the person who's 20 years in the business who's never going to accept that 50 base. But we need to understand as well that that person who's 20 years in the business, the longer in the tooth, they may not have the energy to go out and start doing transactional sales, right? A little bit more transactional, right? So what we do is do a $50,000 base, and then we give them between a $50,000 and $60,000 commission. So their total compensation out the door is going to be $100,000 to $110,000 when they go out there. If we do a line item type of quota, then it becomes very, very easy. Okay, and this is the guidance that we're giving to you. It becomes very easy to then determine, okay, how many licenses do we want them to sell over the year? Okay, so let's say we put a quota on, we want them to sell 1,000 licenses, 500 licenses, whatever it is. It's very easy to back it out, because she's like, okay, well, what type of license? Well, if we did, E3, no problem. We can do 1,000 licenses times the E3 SKU of $20. Okay, great. Now we can back out, what are we making? What is our margin, and what can we pay them? And then we can apply that to that 15% of their quota, right? And we do it on a quarterly basis, right? But we also want to incentivize them to say, hey, look, by the way, if you knock it out of the park, we're not going to say that, we'll push it towards the next quota, because we want them to learn and create a predictable result, right? A predictable cadence of actually doing production, so that we can reduce our business risk and we can create predictability within our P&L statement, really within our business, right? We want to grow this business. Next, it also becomes very simple. Okay, I'm my time here. Very simple on the margin and the managed services, because we can then define very simply, okay, if we can get this rep to bring in 300,000 in managed services, great, 35%. Okay, and then we can easily back out the numbers. It becomes a very simple situation to be able to actually create a comp plan if you do it this way. Last thing I'm going to say here is that if we do it this way, we do this for the first year. Okay, for these people we're hiring in. Okay, we do it for the first year, because at the end of first year we say, okay, now we're going to allow you to start selling other things. Okay, because now they're learning and getting there. Then the comp plan becomes a little more complicated. But what we've done now is created a behavior-based compensation plan that actually has metrics that they can hit, but it hits across the board. They know they have to do cloud licensing. They know they have to do professional services. That's another portion of it. Excuse me, I may have forgot that. And then the cloud managed service piece of it. That's what we want to do. We want to create a predictable machine. Now, last thing I'm going to say here, sales, and let's just be frank with us right here. There's a huge fatality rate in sales. Okay. You have to stop thinking of a year or two before people produce, before you decide to pull the plug. This may seem harsh. Life is harsh, but we run a business. That's what we're doing here. We run a business, and we can't run a lifestyle business where we're just letting people live and hopefully and praying that they're going to develop. Okay. What we need to do is have a 6-month serious time frame. It's 6 months. And in that 6 months, you're given the first 3 months, you might give them a little bit of their quota, right? You're going to give them some sort of draw or ramp. Okay, fine. But if you're not selling, you're not producing within, really, you will actually know in our model, in literally 45 days whether they're worth their salt or not, because it really comes down to activity, right? And then last thing you do is you make sure you have a quarterly activity plan that you put in place, that you basically let them know, hey, this is what you're doing. Social selling, LinkedIn, email campaigns, touches, calls. That's it. Now you've created a factory. Now you've created a way that you can start creating predictable results and actually build a sales team that's going to now differentiate your company. And you're no longer going to be that top heavy where you're 90%. You're 90% up here, right? You're 90% up in engineering and 10% in sales. Okay. But then last thing that even makes it even better, okay, is that you're not breaking your business by me telling you, hey, can you bring in 10 clients in 1 month? No, you're not going to be able to bring in 10 clients in 1 month. You're not built that way. But if we start bringing in smaller clients, holy Moses, now we bring them in, we get them a taste of something, we get them started, and now you cross-sell, upsell, and you bring them in. So with that being said, that's my soapbox today. That's our first iteration of the year. Every month we're going to start doing this. Awesome. I want to go ahead and do a transition now. We're going to actually get into the actual part of the show that we're all waiting for. Not just me talking, but great Anne, and Andres is actually going to be leading it.
Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. Really appreciate you coming in. We're really excited to get some insights from Anne. But I always think it's important to just kind of set the stage so we understand, where Anne's coming from, her background. So first question I have for you, Anne. What inspired you to get into the IT business? Give us your story. Why are you a partner with Microsoft, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us?
All right. Hey, so we just we're a little tiny technical difficulty. Our speaker's connection just broke down, but we'll bring it back up into here. I hope that resonated. If there's any questions regarding kind of how I thought of that, the mechanics of it, you can always just reach out to us. I'm happy to. We always conduct discovery calls, and we always let them give first. So super happy to allow us to talk more about this. Let's see if there's any questions that may be coming up from the group while we're waiting for Anne to come in here. Okay, let's see.
Well, I'm going to take this time, Sherman, while we're waiting on Anne, just to give an announcement to the group. You may have heard this, but we always like to share information that's relevant to you. Co-op has officially been rolled over into our next bucket. So if you guys are worried about any funds you might have had previously towards the end of the year, you have them available for the next 6 months. So let's go ahead and let's take advantage. Just wanted to make sure we have an opportunity to share some information. Might as well get right into it. So hopefully that will be helpful for you guys. If you have any questions for us for the group, please just let us know into the chat window. I know obviously we have some internet issues here, but we'd love to have a discussion on anything you would like to talk about. But I'll pass it back over to you, Sherm.
No problem. No problem at all. I think we like to bake things out here and kind of talk about the way that we approach sales and marketing. Another thing I'll kind of go ahead and talk about is we have a program here that we're doing with several large organizations, and we're giving guidance about how do you upskill your environment? How do you upskill your people, right? Because I think that when you're thinking about your sellers, it's easy for salespeople to sit back and just get comfortable, right, with what they're selling. And also, I've always been in sales and marketing myself, so I'm going to go ahead and follow my own sword and say, hey, there's a lot of times I've been just focused on what they told me I can learn, and I don't invest any time in actually learning. So we have this other program, and I'll just kind of tell you a little bit about it. And the program is really, it's a program where we upskill organizations that have large sales forces. Okay, so we basically put them through a 9-week program where we basically run them through, getting an Azure fundamentals type of certification the first 8 weeks. Then we get them into M365 certifications. Then we get them into becoming a AWS seller. You got to be careful with that, right? But then we also this new thing is Power Apps, right? So we have a Power Apps fundamentals. The ideation behind this, and we run the sellers through over a 9-week process, and we say, okay, look, every day it's 1 hour a day worth of learning, and then we come back and we explain it to them. But at the conclusion, of this, they walk out now with they can talk to people as they're a cloud solution strategist. Because their elevator pitch is very simple at this point. Somebody says, well, what do you do? And you say, well, my name is Sherman Crancer, and I'm a cloud solution strategist. I have a certification in AWS, Azure, and M365, right? And and I specialize in helping IT companies save between 20 and 40% of their, 20 to 40% on IT savings, right? So, with that being said, it changes that narrative. But by getting your sellers and uplifting them and getting them qualified and getting them having these certifications, the reason why you want to do that as a company, is because you want to shorten your sales cycle. Now, the problem we have also, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with sales compensation, one of the biggest problems that we see, on a repeatable basis, is the time to actually sell something. And the reason we have that problem is because, I know, I see it, is because the reason we have that problem is because our sellers are typically like, I'm going to go have the appointment, and then I'm going to ask for another appointment. I'm going to bring my engineer in, right? And then after that, my engineer and I are going to go back, and then we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to come back, and there's another appointment, and it ends up being like 4 or 5 appointments, which is absolutely ridiculous in my mind. I tell you, it's absolutely ridiculous. We should be shortening that sales cycle down to about this much. Meaning that those sellers that you have out there that are talking to people should have those certifications so that you feel comfortable that they can at least have the darn discovery call, which would then reduce the number of appointments that need to actually happen. So this is something that we're implementing, and regardless if you use us or not, it should be something that you should be considering inside of your organization. You should be getting your sellers up leveled. It's no longer having quarterbacks. You gotta stop with that. Having the quarterbacks that have just relationships. They need to be. They need to have it. All right. Now we got Anne back in here. This is awesome. Anne, why don't you tell us?
And so we're very happy to have you back.
I'm so sorry.
No worries. We're really happy you're here. Why don't you give us your story then?
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sure. So, like many of you who've been in the business a long time, my husband is an avid gamer, still is. And so when we were first married back in the day, I guess 90s, we hit a period in our marriage where it seemed like he was spending more time setting up and managing LAN parties for video gaming than he was kind of doing anything else. So after many long walks and discussions about what we wanted our life to look like and where we were going in the next 5 years, we decided that, you know what, we should let him play with computers all day, every day, rather than just doing it on the side as a hobby. And so we decided to get into the computer business. And because he was interested in the technology, he said, hey, why don't you join me and take care of all the business pieces that he had no interest in, like so many other folks in our industry. And I was a product manager for a software company at the time. So worked for me, sounded great, and the rest is history. And here we are 20 years later, and he's still playing games and sharing his passion with our kids. And it's too bad I'm not home, because if I were, you could see the gaming headset and the giant subwoofer that sits underneath our desks in the home office. So that way he and my daughter can have the full surround sound experience when they're playing Fortnite together.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Fortnite definitely does bring the family together, but I'm happy to hear your story. I think, it's a great way to get into the industry, and obviously you made a good decision. So we're happy to have you as a part of the community. Now with all the background you had and the years you've been in the business, I think it would be beneficial to also kind of, for everybody here, we're big on partner-to-partner relationships and working with one another. Maybe you could go in and a little bit into what your ideal customer looks like and why you enjoy doing business with that customer, just for everybody here.
Sure, no problem. Frankly, we work with security conscious and especially regulated organizations like financial services, life science. But life science is kind of our particular focus going forward into the new year here in 2021. And the reason why we're really focusing on life sciences clients is that A, we're headquartered in the Bay Area. There are lots of them here. B, if you guys have been reading the news, there's a lot of activity and a lot of money floating around that industry. And so while other sectors are struggling, the life science industry is really booming. So there's a lot going on there. In addition, we really love working with growing life sciences firms because we're uniquely positioned to help them kind of solve two key problems. One is scaling, and the other is security and compliance. As our clients, approach manufacturing or go for an IPO, which more and more of them are doing sooner and sooner these days, they really need to have systems, processes, and technology that will scale as quickly as they can, because sometimes they add 20 people in 2 months. And they also need to be able to pass audits, right? Because as you approach IPO, you have to pass a SOX audit. And so we're helping them by implementing all of the Microsoft 365 tools, because they have the most certifications of any of the cloud services out there. Their built-in security and compliance features work amazingly well. All of that security just sits on top of and integrates with the rest of their productivity and other application solutions. And then in addition, on top of that, we layer in a company with 80 folks. So that way, if they add 20 in a given month or 2 months, it doesn't stress our service desk at all. And then we also have developed special processes and procedures for people like that who are adding lots and lots of people in a short period of time. We've developed a completely virtual onboarding process for clients like that. So this is why working with fast-growing, regulated organizations like life sciences firms are kind of where we're focusing these days.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you do seem like you have that industry figured out quite well. So I'm happy to hear all the different things you've put in place, and I think it's good. So any life science opportunities, we know we got to speak to Anne. So thank you so much for sharing. We have one other question here for you, and this is really just to get a good understanding of how you treat your relationship with customers and how you really try and build the relationship with them. So, if someone had a bumper sticker on their car for your business, what do you think it would say?
It would say, no excuses, simply IT results. And that's because, metrics are just a part of our culture, always have been. we're engineers. We're very process oriented, and we want to make sure we're doing all the right things. But also, it's become a huge part of our culture these days because most of the people we're working with in our client organizations are not engineers, they're business people. And so we found that the best way to kind of prove our value to them is to be able to hit and show that we can hit business metrics like 90% reduction in phishing entrapments, an IT team for the cost of a single hire, business metrics like that. And it really resonates, and they really quickly wrap their head around what we can do for them.
I love it. Well, really appreciate you sharing with us, Anne. I think, this is a great way to level set so that everybody understands, Xantrion and what you do for the business community. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Mr. Sherman Crancer here to lead us into.
All right. All right. So, with business development, we have 4 questions that we're going to be asking, and we'll bring Anne back in here. There's 4 questions that we're going to be asking. Our very first question, really, and we were showing this to you, what is the big bet that you made? We'll get into it in a second. But I do want one housekeeping item. If you don't see chat right now in your team's environment, you need to access the Crancer Group Partners tenant. And you can do that via the web, do it incognito, then you'll see chat, and you can put it in there. I know it's a pain, but you can do it that way. So our first question, and go ahead and bring Anne in and put her, do a 2 spot with us here. The first question that we really have, Anne, really is going to be behind, what is the big bet that you made, or what is the, what big bet did you make in the past year that's helped develop your business? Because we had a very tough year, right? It's like, oh my God. Absolutely. Yeah, help us understand that.
So like a lot of you, I started out 2020 with all these amazing business and sales and marketing plans. We were all ready to form up around this incredible direct mail program, and then COVID hit. And so we were like, that's all right, it's fine. We'll just wait until this is over. We'll just push the program further out. It's fine. It's no big deal. We'll just, keep in touch with people via email. It'll all be fine. This will be over in just a few months. And of course, we all know that didn't happen. It kept stretching on and on and on. And we quickly realized over the summer last year that direct mail wasn't going to happen anytime soon. We could not bank on that from a sales and marketing perspective. And probably like a lot of you, the other thing that happened to us last year is that leads from traditional sources like SEO and referrals really dried up. Essentially, our pipeline kind of went to 0 by the time we hit April, May. And so we really had a big hole to climb out of on the pipeline side. And so the big bet we made is, hey, A, we have to go digital, right? Everybody's at home. And B, we decided we were going to jump in and try a webinar. And to our great surprise, at the end of last summer, we held our first webinar. We had over 100 people sign up. We had over 60 attend. We had 2 sales conversations out of that webinar, and we actually got a customer out of it just by going online and talking about really relevant information like work from home solutions and securing those solutions.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And then I think towards the end of the year, we have the CIEs that we were actually putting together.
That's right. And then we followed that up with, once we kind of learned the big lesson that webinars were probably a great way for us to go, we had to figure out how to do a lot more of them and do them a lot easier than we had in the summer. And so we actually brought the Crancer Group on board. Our Microsoft partner manager suggested that we talk to them about what they could help us with there. And we have rolled into doing customer immersion workshops with them. And in fact, we did our first one on January 26th, and we're queued up to do one more on February 2nd and February 16th. So we're really looking forward to seeing how this new method carries us forward into 2021.
Awesome. And thanks for the plug there. But I think the mechanics, though, think about this too, is that webinars, people have a little webinar fatigue right now. right? You know, it's the cell is the death by PowerPoint, and be careful with that one, right? And as a former Microsoft PDM, when I was given 150 slides to do it in 30 minutes, I was like, I always push back. I was like, you got to be kidding, right? But I think this whole idea of doing a hands-on lab, smaller, more quaint people, right, and then this is the thing is you can't just do a webinar to have a webinar. You got to have a call to action, and that's what we're really trying to work on, right? With your packages, and then having a call to action, which is an assessment of something of some type, right? Security assessment, secure score. That's going to help. All right, so let me ask you this: what main business improvement did you have planned in 2021, or do you have planned? Excuse me, for 2021?
More along the lines of what we were talking about earlier. We're going to really start focusing on industries. We're going to go through and segment our marketing database by industry: life science, financial services, and legal. We're going to focus all of the messaging in our campaigns around the value propositions and issues that these industries deal with. And we're even going to tailor our customer immersion experiences to demonstrate and illustrate how the Microsoft 365 security and compliance and modern workplace solutions can really solve the key issues that life science, financial services, and legal companies face.
Fantastic. Well, you know, there was a nice little plug by your friend Joe Foose. Xantrion is great, and Anne is a real subject matter expert, Forbes Technology Council member also. So that also kind of gives credibility to where we're at today. We love Joe. Joe is part of our community here. So do you have a success story that you can share? And let me back up for a second before I ask you this question. We're working on offers. Right, we have offers, and your PDM, big on the offers, okay, big on let's create an offer. We've been working hard on something in security, but knowing that, can you share a success story involving a technology solution? Because that's really what the offer should be at. It's about solving a problem, right? Solving a problem, not just I sell stuff, right? It's solving a problem that changed the way you did business. Can you help us with that?
Absolutely. So Teams, right? If you're like us, you implement solutions on yourself before you roll them out to clients. So mid 2019, we rolled out Teams internally here, started using it, and really got to understand it and really appreciate kind of the quick communication features, because like you, we're in the service business, and often we need to answer customers quickly. We need to get information from others that maybe we don't have to hand. And so things like the chat features and quickly jumping on a call from chat if the conversation warranted it was just, a game changer for a service organization like us. And since we had gotten so familiar and we really kind of worked it into our own business process, we have a emergency channel. So if a client is down, everybody knows to jump in there, and we can start the communication through the whole group that needs to help work on that problem there. We have a scheduling channel. So if somebody is going to be late or they're going to be out sick, people can jump in there and speak with all the people they need to quickly to make that happen. So, we had really integrated it so much into our business process that when we hit the summer after COVID looked like it was going to be hanging around, and all of our customers started coming to us saying, oh my gosh, how are we going to handle this? Especially if they hadn't already implemented Teams and SharePoint and OneDrive. We were able to quickly jump into action and get this going for them. And more importantly, we were able to start sharing use best practices with our clients as they came forward and said, well, great, now that it's implemented, how do I use it and when is it important? And we were able to share all the things that we had learned by becoming Teams experts ourselves and using it as part of our day-to-day business process.
That's awesome. You know what I also like about that, Anne, is we did a lot of Teams CIE, right? And while it's great, we help people out, more, but it's tough for a partner to sell something inside a team. The team already came for free. It's already part of your life. But now, and this is something that I'm thinking about when talking about Teams, is we're turning the corner. right, on the pandemic. We are. We're turning the corner, okay? However, things have changed, I think, irreparably for the commercial workspace. You've got to think about this. We're trying to think 2 steps ahead. We're having a little mic problem. 2 steps. Thank you very much, Andre. 2 steps ahead. Okay, so we want to think. We really should be going after team calling right now. Teams calling and Power Apps, right? Both of those inside of Teams, because the reality is, and I'll give you an example. Salesforce, okay, had 10 floors over, I think, off of Montgomery Street in San Francisco. $10 million. It cost them $10 million a month. Okay, for that, right? And so basically what they did is they reduced 9 floors, and they only have 1 floor, and now they're spending $2 million a month. Think about this. That's happening all over the place. With that being said, you're no longer needing all that infrastructure. This is a big thing. There's a lot of infrastructure sitting in buildings and in offices right now, PBXs, phone systems, all that stuff, that really isn't applicable. And if you help them understand that and the Teams aspect on how that can work, man, you're really, let's go. Let's get into that, right? Let's start selling some of that stuff. Let's talk some of that. Because that's a real opportunity right now. And you can talk about fiscal responsibility. I'm going to help you reduce your telecom costs because you already are paying for half of that with Teams already. Let me just go ahead and turn on PSTN calling, and now I'm going to reduce your telecom costs that you have at your office that nobody goes to significantly. All right, let's get to the next one. Can you share a New Year's resolution that you are hearing from your customers when it comes to like technology or security or whatnot? What are you hearing, Ann?
So it's kind of a 2-for-1 resolution that we're hearing a ton of, as probably many of you out there are as well. And that is, most of our customers are continuing to just push everything that they can to the cloud and really trying to move to being a cloud only, frankly, organization. And they realize that in order to do that well, they also have to change and often increase the security that is a part of their infrastructure as they move to the cloud. And so this is why Microsoft 365 has been such a great tool set for us, because it's totally designed to go cloud only if you want to, and the security features are stellar and fully integrated with everything else that most of our clients are using. And so that's what we're hearing a lot of, is this kind of dual need to continue to push to the cloud, as well as implement security solutions that integrate well with an all cloud environment.
Thank you very much for that. All right. So what we probably should do now is we're going to take a little pause because we want to go into our next section, which is going to be sales and marketing. All right. Now we're into sales and marketing. And actually, this is a fantastic section. Anne and I talked about this last night, and I'm really excited for her to share how she feels about sales and marketing. So let's go ahead and bring Anne over here for our shot here. So these are the 3 questions that we're going to be going over. How do you measure the impact of marketing? How do you continue to upsell your customers after the initial engagement? And then we have a fill in the blank scenario here. So go ahead and push Anne live. There we go. So Anne, how do you measure the impact of marketing / digital spend when running your business? And then how does it impact your overall sales?
Absolutely. So like most businesses, it's really important for us to keep track of the return on investment for all of our marketing and sales activities. And so we've always done that. I don't think we'll ever go away from using that metric to help us determine, where we should be investing and how much we should invest in certain activities over others. And that link, that understanding of how those activities are working impacts our sales, because not surprisingly, we're going to spend more money on, and in some cases, a disproportionate amount of money on those activities that are generating the most sales and the higher average size sales. So that's how we measure effectiveness, and that's also how we manage our activities. And of course, we're going to cut off or reduce spend on those activities where the ROI isn't as good.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty good. And you know, I guess the other question is, and we hear this a lot. Okay, is on top of that, when you're talking about marketing, what did you learn several years ago? We talked about this, like what the start and stop scenario, as opposed to your investments and how your approach to marketing. Is it continuous? Is it start stop, or what was the lesson learned?
Yeah. So what we learned many years ago is that sales and marketing is a process. You can't start it and then stop it because it just doesn't work that way. You never know when a customer or several customers are going to go out of business or leave. And so if you're not doing any sales and marketing activities, it takes months to build that pipeline up. So it just didn't make any sense for us to start and stop our sales and marketing activities because business is uncertain. And so you always want to have a super full pipeline because you never know what's going to happen on the other side. And building a pipeline takes so long, you really can't stop and start marketing activities. And then, oh, by the way, you know, once we get clients in, that's not the end of selling even to them. Right, especially for these growing firms like life science firms where their business really significantly changes over time. So we kind of have a series of offerings for each one of the industries that we focus on that kind of line up with how their business changes over time. So for example, we start them with a low cost, small scope project where we kind of assess where they are and basically put together a information technology budget plan and strategy for kind of getting them off the ground. And then once that's in place, then we typically move them to the next offering when they're ready for it in their business. And that's all about implementing what we've developed in that strategy and plan and putting in process and procedure to manage those systems and start supporting their users. And we implement basic security, which will lay the groundwork for the security and compliance they're going to need later on. And then as they approach, typically it's a key event like an IPO or manufacturing where FDA regulators are going to come in and start reviewing what they're doing. Then we layer in the full security and compliance offering that we designed for later in their life cycle when it matters. So that way they have all the things they need like multi-factor authentication, MDM, SSO, as well as all the quarterly reports, the penetration tests, and the third-party certifications of our cybersecurity and business continuity practices, which they can then hand over to regulators as their own since we're providing the IT function for them. And then they can sail right through those audits.
All right. So let's get into the fill in the blank. This is our last question. I love this one. You know, it comes down to fill in the blank. X is the ideal percentage to dedicate to marketing spend, and then explain in your opinion.
Okay, this is a tough one, but right now, we think that 5% is an ideal percentage to be spending on sales and marketing. And the reason why it's a little on the lower end right now is we've had to make some really significant shifts in how we sell and market given what has happened over the past year with COVID. And so we're still kind of dialing in our campaigns and gathering data to truly understand what our return on investment for these new activities are going to be. But obviously, once we have a lot more information about what we can expect from a return perspective, we would absolutely increase spend to the extent that we can hit a particular sales goal. But we're kind of ramping it up while we're in the learning phase because we don't want to be overzealous while we're in the experimenting phase.
Okay, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's a great answer to that. You know, and I think you and I were talking, we're laughing about this. Then I said, well, Anne, I want you to fill in my blank. What do you think I think should be the marketing spend, right? And what did I say yesterday? Yeah. It was, you know, the thing is it's and what I think is or not what I think, but what I've seen. Okay, what I've seen is that the organizations that are growing 100% year over year, okay, are spending between 12 and 14%. But we got to be careful. Okay, don't go in and say, okay, I'm going to budget 12 and 14%. It's just going to break you, right? You have to look at this from a 3-year perspective. If you're going to generate marketing, you want to generate sales, okay, you have to do it in a way that, okay, this is the money I'm spending X today. This is the return on investment Y, X, Y, right? And these are the motions that I'm going to attract to, and I'm going to track it over a quarterly basis. But just think about this. That's going to help you build your business that you can then service. But imagine if you said, oh, I'm going to go ahead and put 22%, which is what McDonald's does. That's the reason why I get French fries when I don't want to do it, right? Then all of a sudden, what if you had 20 clients that came in? The 20 people fully managed. Well, Anne, you would agree, right? Like today, if I said, Anne, I got you 20 huge accounts, you'd have anxiety, right?
My operations manager would kill you and me.
Yeah, turn the spigot on too big, right? So you have to think about that. You know, you have to really think about this and plan it out. You're saying, okay, well, it's 5% this year, and this is what Anne and I were talking about. 5% this year, but next year, let's look at the budget 10% based on how we think that we can build our business. And maybe we're narrowing it down to offers. Maybe we're narrowing it down to things that are have more, higher margins, but less things that we're actually doing, right? So maybe it's just managed services and a couple different things, but it's not the 20 or 30 or myriad of different things. I'd also say that one of the key things that you need to do when you're planning out your business for 2021, okay, and you can bring Anne back in, put her live, we'll do a 2-shot here, is thinning out what you sell, okay? Thinning it out. It's time to go back and plan, because the problem with being a managed service provider, and there's no problem being one, but the problem is you can end up doing too many things. You don't become an expert, our margins reduce, it's hard to be predictable. So one of your best things you could do in any way or shape or form is to thin out what you sell. Now we drink the Kool-Aid here. Okay, so when we talk to our partner to help them out, if you go to our website, we've got 3 things that we sell. Inside of that, there's several things, but we're very specific because we know what we do. We know what we can do well. We know what we can do to be really impactful for our customers and prospects, right? But we also know that there's a lot of people coming to me and say, Sherman, why don't you sell this, or why don't you give this? This is a new thing that you put in. And I say, no, because I know what we do well, and I do it really well, and we slowly add things to that. In your business, the same thing. You can model it exactly the same way. It's like, okay, I'm going to transform my business to get out of selling everything to everyone, and I'm going to start selling, okay, I know what I can do very well. Now, what does that do? That increases your utilization rate of your resources. That reduces your overall business risk and increases profitability significantly. You don't have people sitting down there hoping and praying, what are they going to be doing today? You know, or saying, oh, I'm really busy. I'm really busy, right? I'm really busy, but then they're really not. You know, because they're not doing it. And that's utilization rate. So, anyways, make a long story short, we got 5 minutes here. So the first thing I want to do, please put up, Melody, if you can put up her contact information here. I want to put this up. Now, Anne is a great friend. Put me back live, please. Thank you. Appreciate it. Contact Anne if you'd like to. I think she's really a partner. She's a good partner to partner. There might be applications if she's in the West Coast, right, up in Oakland. You might be in the East Coast. You might have something together. Big proponent, great partner to partner relationships she has here. So you can contact her anytime. All right. Last thing that we have to do today. A couple announcements. One, we got to do our drawing for the Surface headphones. Okay, we're going to do that. And then number 2, sorry with the mic problem here. Just want to reiterate, we're going to do this once again next month. We're not doing them every 2 weeks. We're doing once a month. Okay, come to it. We really appreciate it. You can come in one of many different ways, and make sure that when you do come back, you get into the Crancer Group Partners tenant. Okay, and you start working through there. So let me go ahead and take a look at our attendees. I'm going to run the report here. Okay. Who is on here? Let me go ahead and run the report. I'm going to make it. Okay. All right. Our winner for today, and who we'll have as a speaker again, is the great Michael Goldstein. So Michael, thank you so much for coming today. We're going to go ahead and send out. He's a great partner. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. If you'd like to get a hold of us, it's very simple. There's Crancer, www.crancer.us, and go ahead and just send a request. There's a way you can book a meeting with us. No problem. And I want to just make sure there's one thing. Okay, we never talk money ever with any of our discovery appointments, because it's always about how can we possibly help, or even see if there's a fit. There might be instances where I can just help you, point you in the right direction. We like to do that first. It's always about giving first. Okay, and you can also go to our YouTube, LinkedIn. We're trying to make this really work out this way. So for that being said, Anne, thank you so much once again. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Appreciate everybody for coming today. Andres, amazing job today too. Really do appreciate it. And with that being said, if you're in the Teams channel and you want to network after, we're going to keep that open for about 15 minutes so we can actually network inside of this call. Please share your names, phone numbers. With that being said, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again next month. Have a great day. Bye-bye.